Good evening, YouTube. So I wanted to make a video today to talk about some of the things that I wish I knew when I first started running saws a long time ago. So these two saws right here, I just used them today. I cut up a tree. I knocked over a tree yesterday, and I used these saws to kind of buck them up and delimb them and all that stuff. So they're kind of dirty, and I was gonna do a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of maintenance on them to make sure they're running good. But I wanted to talk about this chainsaw right here, for example. So this thing right here is roughly 16 years old. When I first got it, I thought it was a piece of shit, and it wasn't because it wasn't a good saw. It was just simply I didn't know how to run them and how to maintain them properly. So, like I said, I wanted to make this video so I could kind of share what I learned, and that way, you know, if anybody else starts running chainsaws for your first time, you don't end up running into some of the issues that I had from the beginning. So this video is going to be probably a little bit long, but it's going to kind of put everything together that you need to know in one video for whenever you buy your first chainsaw. Even if it's a cheap chainsaw, you'll know how to run it and maintain it, and it'll be able to last a long time, and you'll be able to cut well with it. So this chainsaw now, it actually runs better than when I first purchased it, and the reason is because now I use the proper fuel, and I clean it and maintain it like I should. So typically this thing will start up in 1 or 2 pulls even when it's cold. So like right now, I'll show you that it's cold, but they normally start off in 1 or 2 pulls. So I'll show you. And that was without even choking it. So on this saw, when I first got it, like I said, I didn't know, for starters, what type of fuel to use and what good oils were to use with it. And also, as when I was running it, I would never clean it or do any type of maintenance on it. I also didn't know how to sharpen the chain, or knew that you even had to sharpen the chain. So I would constantly buy more chains every time they would get dull, but I was also cutting like dirty wood, or I would hit the dirt, and you know, just would constantly dull the chains, never sharpen them, and then I would keep running the saw like that. So eventually it just stopped running, and it actually sat without being used probably for about 8 years or so. I just had it sitting there and it wasn't being used. So I ended up purchasing not too long ago Steel MS311, and I bought that saw because I was like, well, you know, if I buy a more expensive saw, I'm not gonna run into all these issues. Which this was not a cheap saw. I mean, at the time that I purchased it, I think it was like $400. But so I started doing research when I bought that saw to try to find out like how I needed to maintain it, and I came to realize that basically I had made a bunch of mistakes with this saw that I didn't know I was doing. And so I went online and I started looking at repair videos and all this stuff, and I went back and got this saw, took it apart, and I was able to get it running again. So when I looked inside of it, because of the fuel that I was running and also the oils that I was using, it was completely like blocked up and gunked up with like residue from the fuel and the oil not burning properly. It had a bunch of carbon deposits on the inside. I had to do probably like 6 or 7 seafoam treatments to get all that stuff out of there. And then I did a complete tune-up on the whole thing, cleaned out all the fuel system, or the oil system. I got a new bar and chain for it, and now I just make sure that I keep it sharp, and I do all the regular maintenance and stuff that I need to do after every time I use it. So anyways, what I'm gonna do right now is, since I've already finished cutting for today, I'm gonna go ahead and go through and clean them up and get them prepped for to be stored for like, I think, a couple of weeks. I'm not gonna use them for a couple of weeks. I still got a lot of work to do, a lot more cutting, a lot more trees to knock down on my property. But I'm gonna go to work, and I work out of town, so I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. So I'm gonna get them ready, get them cleaned up and everything, and show you the whole process that I go through to make sure that they're always running good. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is basically going to be fuel, right? So the type of fuel that you want to run if you have available is obviously going to be the ethanol-free fuel. And if you're going to store it, this right here is a product that works good for storing fuel. I put this even in my ethanol-free fuel. This stuff was developed by actual fuel manufacturers to transport their fuel in tankers and stuff from overseas. And if it was developed by them to store their fuel for long periods of time, I would say that, you know, that's more likely to work than some of the other stuff. So this is what I use basically to store my fuel. Now the reason I use this, even though I buy ethanol-free fuel, is because even ethanol-free fuel goes bad. And not only that, but where I live, there's a lot of humidity and stuff, so you know, you could get, you know, water in your fuel or whatever. So just to be safe, just to be on the safe side, I run ethanol-free fuel, and then I also add this pre-G to it to make sure that it stays fresh and stays running good. And for the mixed oils, so right now there's a lot of good oils that you can use. So these are some of the popular ones that people are using that are running good, like this HP2. This is what I use. This right here is another good one. These are all fully synthetic oils, and like Red Armor, this one has some really good ratings. These I run them at 40-1, so that all you need to do is basically put 3.2 ounces into 1 gallon of fuel, and that'll give you the mixed ratio of 40-1. I don't use the 50-1 ratio because I want to have a little bit more oil in my fuel to lubricate the cylinder a little bit better and stuff. So that's why I run the 40-1. Now, the steel oil for the fuel, there's a lot of negativity on it online. Some people like it, some people don't. So what I ended up finding out with this stuff is I tested it myself, right? So I have a camera that I can put into the cylinder, and also I always take my chainsaws apart. Like I'll take the muffler off to look at the piston and look inside the cylinder and stuff. So what I noticed with this stuff is it does run dirtier than any of these. You do get more buildup a little bit faster. So that's why I don't use it. I have it because when I bought my steel chainsaws, they extended my warranty by buying some of this stuff. But you know, I'm gonna be honest, I like this stuff better. It just seems to run cleaner. There's another one called Saber that you can run. You know, there's quite a few options out there, but try to stick to something that's synthetic that just burns really clean. So like I said, these are some that I recommend for that. So that's the thing about that. Like, you make sure you're running ethanol-free fuel, and you get a good synthetic oil that burns clean. That's probably the most important part of keeping your chainsaw running good. Now I have a process that I do every time that after I get done with my saws. I have a process. It doesn't take that long. It's going to take me a little bit long because I'm going to be a little bit longer than normal because I'm going to be explaining everything that I do. Basically, you don't really need a whole bunch of tools, right? You just need a couple of things. Like, I've got a brush here that I use. I got a smaller brush, and then I ended up buying this. It's like a little air blower tool. It's 20 bucks on Amazon, and then also you need just the tools that come with your saw to take it apart. So we're kind of going to go step by step at how I do it. So you can see here, you know, you get a lot of dust and debris, and you get oil and everything from the from the oiler on the bar. But the first thing that I do, and I wanted to touch on this as well, which is something that a lot of people kind of neglect, even a lot of the professionals. So whenever you're fueling up, right, as you can see here, where you put the oil in, where you put the fuel in, you end up getting a lot of debris in these spots, right? And especially on this side because there's oil. So then it's close to where the sawdust is coming out. So these areas here get full of debris and dirt. So whenever you're adding oil or when you're adding fuel into your saw, that these are areas where it can get into the saw, and then it can work its way, get into the cylinder, or it can work its way into your oil pump and then just start messing things up. So, you know, if it gets into your cylinder, it can score everything up in there, cause all kinds of problems. So the first thing I do when I'm fueling up, you know, every time I fuel up, is I just get this brush and I just brush everything off of it. Take this, brush it off. So then I can take the cap off and then I can put fuel in there. Same thing on this side. Brush all that stuff off. See how much stuff is falling? See all those debris, sawdust coming off? Brush that off real quick. Boom. Now you're ready to put the oil and fuel in there. But anyway, so now we're done for the day. So the first thing I do is I take this cover off. And you want to give this a good clean. So I start off with this little blower. You can see how much dust came off of that, right? And then I'll get on the filter itself and I'll just brush it off real quick. And that's all you have to do on there. And what this is going to do is it's going to extend the life of your filter, and obviously you're going to keep, it's going to be less likely that you're going to get debris that goes into your cylinder and get clogged up on, you know, everything that's in there. So we'll put that back on there. Alright, so now that's ready. The next thing I do is go ahead and blow the rest of it off all over everywhere around there. So that's done. And I get my brush. Brush everything off real quick. Alright, so that's done. We're done cleaning that. Now the last thing we have to clean is going to be inside this cover. So I like to clean inside of here. I don't like to have a bunch of sawdust and oil and everything just, you know, basically clogging everything in there. And the reason is because the more stuff you get clogged in there, the more likely it is you're going to have trouble, you know, oiling. You know, the oil getting into your bar and stuff. So this is, like I said, this is something I do only when I'm done, you know, working, and I'm going to store it for a little while. So you can see here, this gets all clogged up. But with these little brushes right here, even with this, you're not really getting it. You're not going to be able to get a lot of that off. What I do is, that's why I got this brush right here. This has got a little bit tougher bristles. So we're going to take this. Take the bar and chain off. And all I'm going to do is basically wipe this down. And I'm going to hit the saw here. All this stuff off. Now this is pretty clean. It's not too bad. I'm just gonna wipe it off. Now, if it's real bad, you can get some cleaner, a rag, and just go through this and wipe it down. And that's pretty much it. Now we can just put it back together again. This wipe down too. One last blow down. All right, and we're pretty much done. All right, guys. So I just want to do a quick recap of everything. So basically, you know, you take the cover off, clean everything off of there, clean everything all the way around it. You know, get all the dust and debris off of it. Make sure you clean behind the cover and all that. And then if the bars is real dirty, you can also wipe that down as well. The final thing you have to do, if you needed to, was sharpen the chain. Now I already have this chain sharpened. I actually sharpen mine while I'm cutting. Like I'll do like 2 or 3 tanks of fuel and then I'll sharpen it, or just as needed. So this doesn't need to be sharpened, but you know, there's plenty of videos online on how to sharpen a chain. There's there's difficult ways and then there's easy ways. So I've got a couple of ways that I do it that are pretty easy, and I'll go ahead and make a video on that at some point. Yeah, that's about it. Just go ahead and, if you do all these quick steps with your saws when you're cutting and everything, when you're done using it, to keep it clean and maintained, use the right fuels, keep everything clean, then it should last you pretty much, you know, a lifetime. And it'll be very rare that you need to do repairs, and when you do, the saw will just keep going. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys, and thanks for watching.